Hi, Gary.
Hey there. Good to see
Hey,
you.
so good
I
to see you, Gary. Gary Stapleton is the CEO and founder of Aerodiagnostics. With years of industry experience in laboratory diagnostics, Gary now brings clinically proven SIBO breath testing to patients and providers nationwide. Gary, I
International.
say it again, internationally.
That's 42 countries. Yeah.
42 countries. Okay, then let's get that one right
Yeah.
for sure, because I know we have a lot of people internationally watching. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Gary, you are one of the most passionate, dedicated people to this cause. So it's so appropriate to have you here on the SIBO Awareness Day. And ever since I met you about 10 years ago, you've just
Mhm.
really continually demonstrated your commitment to making sure that patients and practitioners have the information that they need. So it's a
Thank you.
delight to have you here. And I've got some hot questions for you, sir.
That sounds great. If I may, I just want to say one thing about that. I think the passion actually comes, and it's with you and Dr. Seebecker and Eric and the whole team and Quintron that are listening in, by the
Love,
way,
love,
bringing it
love.
on,
Me some
bring it
Eric.
on. And, this is about patients. And that's why every time I speak, now these are some canned questions, so we may not get to it, but it's always about matching the clinical impressions that are presented from the patient to the gas data. If everyone does what they're supposed to do, from the proper prep to the use of a very good closed capture kit to the preparation, then to the laboratory work that you do, and then the interpretation, it always should match. Because if you do everything the right way, using the right equipment and the right kits, it's binary gas, symptoms. So, anyway, that's why I say that.
Okay. All right. That's very hopeful. Seriously.
Yeah.
Okay. We are going to get into the breath test mechanics. What is a breath test and who is a good candidate for one for SIBO?
Sure. So, there are many different types of breath tests. In particular, what we're talking about here today are SIBO breath tests. A lot
Right.
of breath test laboratories do other types of breath testing, like we do intolerance testing, like lactose, fructose, and sucrose. But primarily, today is about SIBO. There are other breath tests that have nothing to do with SIBO. So we're going to qualify the question that the breath testing that we do is we're measuring gas to determine if there's fermentation at a certain point along a 3-hour continuum. And we recommend the 3-hour test. Not that the 2-hour test is bad, it's just that we recommend it's kind of gold standard. And for many reasons I won't get into here. But the breath test helps clinicians validate what they suspect, whether or not they're ruling out SIBO or whether they want to confirm it. Why? Because SIBO can look like a lot of things. You were just talking about one: mold, fungal, Lyme, parasites. So we need to know for sure that we're dealing with SIBO. You don't want to just assume based on symptoms, oh, I bloat all the time. Okay, let's start treating. And then it's thousands of dollars later. And guess what? It had nothing to do with SIBO. So we need to know that, but we also need to know if there's methane present. Because if there is methane present, the choices are different on treatment, right? If you're
Right.
using herbal microbials, you're going to use whole garlic, right? And allicin, right? If you're using antibiotics, you're going to use combination antibiotics, right? If you have other kind of symptoms and you many times, not all the time, many times you don't have hydrogen or methane gas, but you have symptoms like peripheral neuropathies, intolerance to lighter peripheral neuropathies or tingling, numbness, hands or feet, issues with lighter noise, interstitial cystitis, which is bladder irritation, burning urination,
A nightmare.
yep,
A
body pain,
nightmare.
body ache,
Yeah.
and gas that smells like sulfur. So you'll know you're dealing with that. And those questions come from the great work that Dr. Seebecker did many years ago. And the reason you have not only the SIBO symptoms, but you have some of these sulfur symptoms as well, is that hydrogen sulfide works through the nervous system. So that's why you're getting that. So
Mm.
you can validate, and yet you'll treat differently for that as well. So who's a good candidate? This is the most important thing that I try to convey to everyone. With SIBO patients, if you have, so you have your GI tract, right? Your mouth, your throat, your stomach, this 23-foot plus tube. It looks like spaghetti if you've seen anatomy. And that's the small intestine, right? And then you have your colon, and then food exits the body. Well, the small intestine isn't sterile, but it's nearly sterile. The technical terms is 10 to the 3 colony forming units of bacteria. So it's very, very little. The colon, however, is more than 10 to the 12. So you have a lot of bacteria in the colon doing its job there, but not supposed to have a lot in the small intestine. So what happens? Maybe from food poisoning, maybe from a compromised ileocecal valve, that doorway between the small and large intestine that Dr. Seebecker was just speaking to. Maybe that's compromised, so the bacteria is coming up. When you get an abundance of bacteria or archaea on the methane side, then what happens is when you eat, you feel symptoms. It could be bloating, cramping, nausea, joint pain, restless leg syndrome, rosacea, and some others. But
Yeah.
the key is the chronic nature of it, right? It can't be intermittent. If you think about it, if you have bacteria in that small intestine, it doesn't care if it's Monday, Wednesday, or Friday. It doesn't care if it's morning or afternoon. And it really doesn't care about the food. Yes, some foods are more highly fermentable,
Sure.
clearly,
Yeah.
but you're gonna have symptoms all the time. So who's the candidate? The patient that presents and has some of these, a combination of these, all the time. And that's when we want to validate that it definitely is. And if everyone, as I mentioned earlier, does the right thing, we'll know for sure, because the bacteria, the substrate, whether it be glucose, lactulose, and some are even using fructose, that's a food source. It's all it is, just a food source. So it goes through the mouth, the throat, the stomach. And then when it gets into that small intestine, if there's bacteria there, it's not going to just step aside and say, yeah, go ahead, bye. I'm not going to eat you today. It has to.
Gary, oh, no, we could go on and on about who
Yeah.
it's for, but that covered it really
Yeah.
well. I want to ask you,
Yeah.
how do we obtain the test? Does my PCP have to order it? Do they need to be a GI? Tell us about some of the logistics.
Absolutely. And please feel free to stop me if I keep going on. Various labs will handle it differently, but in
Yeah.
general, anyone can order a test, a SIBO test, not with lactulose. We're going to get to that in a minute, but you can order a SIBO test with glucose. You can order it directly yourself. We don't recommend that. We recommend working with someone, but you can order it directly
Sure.
yourself, or you can order it through a clinician. You can order it through a dietitian, a naturopathic physician, an MD, ND.
They just have to register with the lab, right? That
Yep.
person, that practitioner. And what's so cool is we can order it directly as well. I like the idea of walking into that next appointment with the test in hand. But
Yes.
if you also, like the very first test I had done in a doctor's office, I was totally clueless. I was glad I had the first test done in a doctor's office. I sat in the
Right.
reception area for like 3 hours. However, the famous story is they crossed out the word positive and wrote the word negative because they didn't know how to interpret the test.
There you go. Yeah,
Oh,
that's absolutely right.
yeah.
And there's a lot more that goes into that too. Sometimes you really have to know that you're using the right equipment, the right collection kit. It has to be closed capture. If you're opening things up to room air,
It's not going to work.
not from my perspective.
Are they calibrating the machines? That kind of,
Right.
so this is part of the whole,
To known gas values, not algorithm.
Right.
So there's a tank in our laboratory, and the technician, you'll see 4 blue trays and a red tray, and the person's samples are each in trays, right? When they get to a red tray, they have to stop the machine. We do it every 5 patient tests, way more than we should, based on what the
Yeah.
manufacturer suggests. But we do that for accuracy.
so another question is, what about insurance? Does insurance pay for it? And how long do the results usually take?
Just trying to be funny here. Insurance doesn't pay for anything anymore, but I'm joking.
Ouch.
I know. But
Right?
honestly, yes, there are insurers that do pay. Some pay part, some pay in full. It depends on a lot. It depends on your policy. Like right now, it's deductible time. What do I mean by that? As you know, January 1st comes around, you reset your deductible. So you clear that, even if they pay. And this is the problem, because you'll call your insurer and say, whoa, will you pay for this CPT code, right? And they go, yes. And then you go and do the test, and guess what? They say they declined it. And you go, well, you said you would pay for it. Well, but you haven't hit your deductible. They didn't
Right.
finish the sentence. So just check. It's always a good thing to run your insurance if you have it, because they may pay something. If not, it goes toward your deductible. So it's a good thing to do.
Yeah, let them know that you've done it. And what are those codes, Gary? I'm sure you have them off the tip of your tongue.
Yeah, they're actually, let me just step away, because
Okay.
they get very specific too, because there was a change back about
Let's
2 years
see.
ago.
This is just for reference. You guys can Google this, but I just thought
Yeah.
we have him, so why not?
Yeah. Actually, I was looking for, well, it gets really complicated, but it's 91065s, but it's what they need is the ICD-10 codes like K63.82 and then K63.821 and then K63.8211 K63.8212
K
and K63.8219.
0.8219. All right.
Okay, now there's two more. I just want to tell you, one is for CFO, and that's K63.822, which
0.822.
is
Okay.
not measured on a breath test. I'm just
Yeah,
telling
he's
you.
just giving us some
Yeah.
codes, folks. Just
And then
trying to help.
the last one for intestinal methanogen overgrowth is K63.829.
63.829. And that's
Yeah.
emo. Sorry to like break in the
Yeah.
action there, but I just wanted to
No
make
worries.
sure if anybody wanted those, they could get it. And
And
these codes need to be verified by your insurance company. Totally. This is not a
absolutely.
guarantee. This is just like a step in the right direction. The whole thing is, right, it's awareness and it's data.
Mhm.
So just like a SIBO breath test, it's data. And these codes may help you. I would confirm them with ChatGPT or Claude or whatever, but hopefully I got everything right. But it's data, it's support materials, and
The other thing I was saying about the codes, don't be surprised. You're not going to be able to go to your clinician and say, oh, you need to use these codes because that's not legal for them to do. They're going to determine what
right.
code appropriately fits what they
Thank
suspect
you.
you're dealing with.
Perfect. Gary, did you say that SIBO can't be measured on breath tests?
No,
Yeah.
what I said, CFO.
SIBO. Okay,
Fungal.
Vanessa, thanks for clarifying. We're going to go and continue with the questions, Gary. How long does it
And,
take to get
I'm just
the
going to
results?
say,
Okay.
CFO is fungal overgrowth. Just that's why it sounded when I was saying fast, it may
Yeah.
sound like SIBO, but CFO fungal overgrowth. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. Okay. How long does it take to get the results?
Well, it depends on who you're working with, right?
On average. On average.
So, well, I'm going to tell you, this is a pet peeve for me because I come from anatomic pathology where we did skin biopsies for cancer. So I return in 24 business hours. It's just my rule. It's what we do. But there are some labs that are up to a couple of weeks. I'm not judging them. They're much bigger labs. They have a lot of things that they do. Maybe the processes, I don't know the processes. I'm not saying
Right.
that's a bad thing. It's just, I'm passionate about you've done a test, you've already put it in the mail, so you're at least a day, if not two. The minute we get it, it's 24 hours, 24 business hours.
For
Have it.
turnaround.
Mhm.
And then how long should I not take treatment, antibiotics or probiotics before doing a SIBO breath test?
Okay, so you're going to have a lot of different answers to this. So there's a lot of information out there. The information that was the basis for all breath testing, that comes from Dr. Lyle Hamilton, always said, always referred to 10 to 14 days, that range. However, why test after antibiotics or herbal antimicrobials 10 to 14 days? Because you don't want the effect of it. We want to see if there's bacteria there after treatment. You don't necessarily want to go the next day, although I'm going to tell you something, neurology would disagree with that. And then other people will say, wait 4 weeks, which I just disagree with. And many of my clients, I don't know one client that would wait 4 weeks because then you have regrowth. What if you don't get it all? It's like the weed in the root. And that's a reason for retesting too after treatment. You'll feel better potentially, but if you pull that weed, but that root is still there, you're just going, oh, the SIBO is back again. No, the SIBO isn't back. It just never left. Now, some clinicians, I don't want to speak for Dr. Jacoby, but I know her very well. And she has
We love us some neurology Jacoby.
And she made the case, hey, it's either there or it's not. So I test the next day. Dr. Morstein is like
Mona
5
Morstein,
Yep.
lots of
He's
love.
5 days. Yep. And then most I would say is 10 to 14 days.
Right.
However, and I know my lab does this. I don't know if other labs do, but if you are being treated with elemental diet, now for those of you that don't know, elemental diet is the liquid diet that you drink. You can do it a combination of eating and drinking, but most are just the liquid diet for a period of time, 7, 14, 21 days. And it's meant to feed you, but starve the bugs. That's not like a low FODMAP diet or some other diet. This is designed to, kill the bacteria and the archaea.
Yep.
So
here's one of them right there.
There you go. So when you do that, if you let us know that you're on elemental diet, and if plan it so that you technically finish, you're still going to stay on it for a minute, but technically finish on a Sunday or a Monday, then you collect your breath after just 12 hours. You don't go back to the prep diet, just 12 hours of a water fast. Now you collect your breath specimens. Let's call it Monday morning. So you finished Sunday night, 12 hours overnight fast. Now you collect your breath. Our shippers, we give you 2-day shipping through UPS. However, if you want to overnight it, you could. But
Yeah.
once you finish, you're back on the elemental diet until we get you your answer. And we're going to go faster than 24 hours for you. If we know it's inbound, then when we receive all the boxes, we go through it. And if we find an elemental diet patient, they go right on the machine. So within 2 hours or so, you have your results.
I think a lot of people think, you call LabQuest or LabCorp or whatever, and like you usually don't get a person. But with Gary and the other labs that are typical for the SIBO breath testing, they're actually real people that are, most of the time going to pick up the phone, or you can fill out the form online. I've heard that they're calling people. So it's much more, I think, interactive than what we usually think about for lab. So thank you.
We outbound call. When we get an order, we get the kit shipped.
Yeah.
Then we give it a day or two, and then we're outbound calling patients just to see if they have any questions, if we could be of any help.
Oh, that's so great. So that's like real legitimate customer service.
Yeah.
And also a very important detail, if you are doing the elemental diet, can you be on ProKinetics and do a SIBO breath test?
ProKinetics were removed a couple of years back, maybe even more than a couple of years. Probiotics were removed. ProKinetics, the studies haven't been done. There's so many new products, so we can't say. The best rule of thumb that I give is any gut-related product, if you don't absolutely have to be on it, try to discontinue it for a couple of days up to a week before, if you can. Secondly, I know my lab, I can't speak with others, but I'm never going to tell a patient what they can be on or off. That only comes from the clinician.
Right.
So
yeah,
I'll talk to the clinician about it, but I'm going to give you and your clinician a picture of what you give me. So if you give me a small intestine that has a bunch of products on it, that's what you're going to get an answer on. Okay. If you're just your body acting as your body, we'll know if there's bacteria or archaea there definitively if you prep right, use the right kit, and so on.
So if you figure out that you're a candidate for a SIBO breath test, you can reach out to the labs that we've been talking about. You can do the test at home. There is a prep diet to do, and that's all explained in the box. And on their websites, and then you do the test, you send it in, be strategic about what day of the week you send it in. If you want to get those results back very quickly, especially if you've just finished the elemental diet acts as the prep diet, by the way. And then you can reach out to Aerodiagnostics, for example, and they will rush your test results to get that to you. Now, Gary, can the patient receive the test results if it was ordered by the patient? I would imagine that answer is yes. But then if the doctor ordered the breath test, do the results go to the doctor?
So if you're a patient and you ordered it, you're getting the results. If you want it sent to your clinician, you just tell us who to send it to. If your clinician orders the test, then the results are going to that clinician. And likewise, the clinician can say, please also send it to the patient. But somebody has to do it. If a clinician orders it and you just call in, our team is just going to call the office and ask them if it's okay, because that's how we have to do it. It's your data. You have a right to it. If push came to shove and I was confronted with a clinician saying no, but a patient saying they want it, the law is the patients can have it. So I end up sending it and unfortunately upset a clinician, but I think that's only happened once in 12 years, 12 plus years. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Okay. Should you always use the same test from the same place?
Not necessarily. I mean, I would like that because it's continuity of service.
Sure.
Because there are different preps out there, and that is by far the biggest reason you have bad results. If you don't have a really good prep and really understand what that prep is, you can't use very high, vague terms. The way we teach it, what's on our website, and if we're on the phone with patients, it's chicken, fish, eggs, turkey, white rice, white bread. There are going to be others that say lean meats. There are going to be others that say tofu. There are going to be others that say carrots. Okay. But from my perspective and the work of Dr. Lyle Hamilton, which has consistently given me results, and the one thing I hear all the time is your results always match with what I expect. And it starts with the prep. So
can you do eggs, Gary? Can you do eggs as a protein source?
Yes, I'm sorry. I
just want to throw in eggs because I'm a vegetarian, so I like to mention that. So Gary is a purist, right? That's what you want in a lab owner. You want a purist, trust me. Okay.
Yeah. Well, show me the study that said that the prep with some of those other items worked, and show me a patient that understands what lean meat is, right? I mean, there's going to
Understood.
be some, but not everyone.
Yeah,
You-
understood. Where can the
Mhm.
tests be ordered? So you can go to Aerodiagnostic online. You can go to TrioSmart online, Gemelli Labs. They're floating around in the sponsorships around here. You can simply
Yep.
Google, where can I get a SIBO breath test for home? This is all of that awareness. That's what we're talking about today
And Dr. Seebecker has a list of labs too
at
on her site.
SIBOinfo.com, right?
Mhm.
I'm sure SIBOawareness.org also does. Okay, so let's get you a couple of questions here. Can
Sure.
you test positive for hydrogen and methane and not actually have SIBO? Interesting.
Yes, I'll tell you how. When you don't do things the right way. Like if
When the
you don't
okay,
calibrate a machine, you don't do
okay,
the right prep. So let me just drill real quick. If you don't prep, you have a big steak the day before, but it was a lean steak, right?
okay.
Now it's in your colon. Remember what I said earlier? There's a lot of bacteria in that colon. Do we really think that's going to be out by the next morning when you wake up? More than likely not. So now you have all this gas, and we don't know if it's small intestine, large intestine, or a combination.
Okay. So the instructions are very clear, and also take a minute to absorb them, but just step by step. And if you're doing it at home, get your timer out. I know that when I've done the lactulose in the past, which is one of the sugar substrates, it gave me a lot of brain fog and it did not do well for me. But I actually got the timing wrong because the brain fog got so bad while I was there. It's so
Yeah.
I also recommend doing a timer that's not your phone because like you take a call, you send a text, that timer. Wait, what happened to that timer? So get the kitchen timer out and do it that way.
You would be shocked about the brain fog. We actually get kits back with the lactulose or glucose in the kit. They never even drank the substrate.
Yeah, you have to really hone in on those instructions.
Mhm.
What's the price range for testing these days, Gary?
Yeah, it does range quite a bit, but I would say generally speaking, the 230 to 370 range, but it can change and that's cash
Just
pay.
depends.
That's cash
Right.
pay. If you're filing an insurance claim, you're gonna see an EOB, explanation of benefits, and you're gonna see invoices for much, much higher. Don't shoot the messengers. This is just insurance billing 101 for the United States of America, unfortunately. You have to bill at a certain percentage above Medicare, and then it gets all knocked down. At our lab, if you get an invoice and it's much larger than the cash pay price, there's a giant red arrow that says just pay this amount if you pay within 15 days. And we always forgive those that don't, that kind of thing. But don't be afraid if you use your insurance. You want to use it, and don't be afraid if you see an EOB or an invoice. I can't speak for other labs, but we give it to you for the cash pay price.
Communicate. I think that's the key. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you need to have someone help you do it at home? It is kind of stressful. There are videos on the different labs' websites.
Unless you're a minor, very, very simple. However, like you said, you're already kind of anxiety ridden if you have SIBO. So why not
Yeah,
have,
if you can have a helper, by all means, it's great.
yeah,
But it's not essential. It's really not
no.
essential. You can ground and get focused and
But
step by step.
if you're stressed over it from Aerodiagnostics, you just call us. I can't tell you how many FaceTimes I do a week
Ah,
just helping a
fantastic.
person get the first couple of specimens in, and we'll FaceTime with you.
How about FSA? Is the
Mhm.
SIBO test FSA deductible if we pay cash?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
I should say check with your plan.
It's just like everybody's results are going to be different with a supplement and a drug and all
Yeah.
that. Like, check with your
Yeah.
plan. If my breath test comes back negative, but I still have symptoms, what should I ask my provider about next?
Well, it's pretty
That's a
broad
huge
because, like we
question.
mentioned, you could have mold, fungal, Lyme parasites. The test result could be wrong. The
Yeah.
interpretation could be wrong.
Yeah.
It's really broad. It sounds like that's coming as a very specific
Yeah. I
thing.
think that happened to someone.
And if you have your test result and you want your clinician, if they want to talk with me, just send us a message. I'll review that along with the clinical, and we'll talk about it and see
Sweet.
if anything could have gone wrong.
Okay. How accurate are the at-home breath tests compared to ones done in a clinical setting? Is one more reliable?
I think, again, it goes back to, are you using a closed capture kit? Or are you opening up test tubes or bags or whatever it may be to room air? That's one thing. Did you prep correctly? If you did you use a closed capture kit? If you did use that and you prepped correctly, now you send it to the lab. Is the lab doing calibrations to known gases, not an algorithm? And then did they interpret it right? So it can be very, very accurate, and it can be very, very bad. In the early days, you say, yeah, a lot of the clinicians would say when I was calling them to try to start the business, oh, those breath tests are always wrong. And you know what? They were right. They were wrong
But
because they
not
were
anymore.
wrong.
This is
No,
the test tubes,
absolutely.
for example, with the Quintron machine. So what he's
Happy
talking about with
birthday, 65. They're
happy birthday.
65 years old.
Oh, happy
This year.
birthday. That's
Yes.
amazing, Quintron. Way to
And
go.
they're on here. They're listening.
Yes, blessings to the Quintron folks. The thing
Yes.
is that this is the closed capture. There's a device here. I just wanted to show you what he's
There you
talking
go.
about.
There you go.
Thank you. Thank you, Gary.
So it's like a vacutainer. It's like when you go to for blood draw, you puncture and they keep slapping, switching the tubes in and out, the
Right.
test tubes, but you're not punctured by this. So in one part is a mouthpiece, the other part, there's a needle. Here is your closed, crimped, evacuated test tube with application notes that tell you this has been studied to do the right job. Now you just exhale normally. Simple as that.
It's a
Couldn't
normal
be more
exhale.
simple.
That's such a good point. It's not like a big, I'm going to blow up a balloon, guys.
No, if you do this, if you go, what you're doing is you're bringing room air into your lung air and that's mixing it up. But we measure carbon dioxide to be sure that the contents of these tubes are consistent with true human lung air, not room air, dead air, mouth air, space. That's how we will know for sure.
Okay. Should we wait 2 weeks after finishing herbs or antibiotic treatment before doing SIBO breath test?
10 to 14, if you're asking me, but there are other people that have other opinions.
Okay, that's
I
fine.
found consistent results with that.
Okay. Can these breath tests be shipped to Canada? If not, what should I look for in a breath test? What kind of lab to look for? You ship to 42 countries.
Yes, you can ship to Canada, but the trouble there is getting the lactulose in and out. So it's over the counter in Canada. So just order a no substrate. If you're ordering from us, order a no substrate kit and then, just pick up lactulose, 10 grams of lactulose at a local pharmacy.
So we're going to take on the hot topic. Are you ready?
Oh boy.
Let's talk substrates, people. Go, Gary. Go, Gary.
Is Dr. Seebecker off?
I don't know. I don't know if I can
All right.
handle it.
The way I always
she's-
describe this is if you're at a health meeting about SIBO, if you were to throw a rock into a crowd in any direction, you're going to get a different answer, right? Those that love glucose say that lactulose is bad. You're going to get false positives because it increases the rate at which it goes through and you'll get a false positive. And there's some truism to that if you don't do what we do, but just that aside. If you're a lactulose fan, you're going to say glucose is absorbed in the first 2 feet, so you're going to miss this, or it doesn't feed certain bacteria for this. I've had 12 years, over 100,000 tests. I have given experts 5 patients each, both where they would do a glucose on one day, a lactulose on the other. And I did it for 5 different SIBO thought leaders in one office, and they each had 5 patients, and all of them came back the same. If you do everything right, it's going to be, now there are going to be people that disagree with me on this.
Yeah, it's fine.
But I think both are very good, and there are good reasons to use glucose because there are a lot of clinicians out there that don't have access to lactulose in this country. So we need something for them, but that's my opinion. There are going to be others that feel differently. I wouldn't offer both if I didn't think both were accurate.
Right. Okay. Can you have all 3, EMO, SIBO, and ESO, tested for EMO and SIBO and negative for ESO? But first time I hear about the bladder symptoms Gary mentioned, I want to say something, which were present during my flare-up. So I was wondering if I missed it on a 2-hour test. You can have an overgrowth in the bladder from so many other things. And that terrain between the whole urogenital and digestive area, it's all they cohabitate in many situations. I do recommend going to Microgen DX, which is a lab where you can test for very specific overgrowth in urine and vaginal microbiome. So check out Microgen DX if anyone here has chronic UTIs and the interstitial cystitis. So I don't think a SIBO ESO breath test positive would mean that you have a bladder scenario. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Yep, I would agree, but it's not really my.
That's not your that's not your microbiome.
I know the answers, but it's not really right for me to speak to that.
Is there a study that shows that ESO is associated with IC? Is there a study?
Right.
Yes or no question, Gary? I said yeah.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Let me get cynical, Gary. All right, here he is.
Okay.
I worked for large pharmaceutical companies for many, many, many years, and
Yeah.
you can get a study to say anything you want.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
That's sad. No,
Sure.
that's the voice of experience right
Look,
there.
I
Cynical
just want to
Gary.
say, look at statins. It's ridiculous. Taking a statin isn't going to reduce 25 to 30%. If you've had a hard heart event, yeah, but if not, it's 0.0005. And you got billions of people, millions of people on statins. It's crazy.
Gary, tell me how you really feel about it. I'm with
Jeez.
you. What is
Jeez.
ISO? I missed it. It's the hydrogen sulfide version of SIBO. So it's the overgrowth of organisms producing hydrogen sulfide. So we're using the term umbrella-wise SIBO for the overgrowth of methanogens, of hydrogen producers, and of the hydrogen sulfide producers. Okay. Renee is giving you some feedback. It'd be awesome if the test came with a trial, something that I can try out first before actually breathing into the official container. That's how she felt as a first timer, like a practice set.
I actually think, and I wish Eric were on here because I think at some point in the history they actually did do that. I might be speaking out of
It
turn,
might have
but I think
increased
they may
costs too
have.
much.
And
Yeah.
then if I this is cobwebs now. I think it was confusing.
Yeah. You're like, hey, I thought there were
So,
supposed to be this many vials. What's this extra?
and even if you write it,
Yep.
the whole thing in, writing medical terminology and instructions and stuff, you're supposed to write it at like a 6th grade level. Just because people get confused, they have brain fog in this case. And I can't remember the story. I'm going to have to ask him about that after. I've forgotten. Sorry, Eric.
Let's take a breath, is what, no pun intended.
Yeah.
Gary, what else in this final moment do you want people to know?
Thanks for that question. Breath testing can be very accurate. You've heard me say this over and over. We really need to test before you start to treat to make sure that you're not treating unnecessarily, because it can be very expensive and it can be harmful to you. So you don't want to do that. Ask the questions, and everything should match with what you're experiencing. If you have chronic, meaning all the time, every day, all day, any time of day, when you eat or drink, you're feeling this way, it's likely to be SIBO. Have a clinician determine that with you. Get a test. And if you do everything right, you'll know for sure, or you could rule it out. But the most important thing to me is not over treating. And I think we've gotten this down. A lot of labs doing a lot of good work here.
Great. That's a great way to sum up. And remember that SIBO imitates so many other things, from ovarian cancer with bloating to candida, parasites. So it's this whole premise of test, don't guess. And thank goodness these tests have come to the point where we can do them at home. They are within the realm of being affordable, and that the science is there, the validation is there. A whole lot of work has been done for the validation.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
there are a lot
Absolutely.
of, there's still, I see random comments, crazy pie, like, oh, the SIBO breath test, blah, and it hurts me because maybe that was true 25 years ago. Okay. I don't know.
Yeah.
There was a wave of that. And so the science has been very diligent.
Yes.
The scientists, people in
Mhm.
labs have been really, really diligent about saying, well, what is the truth? And
Right.
that's where they are now. So that's very exciting.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Any fungal testing can be done with breath testing. I think we already covered that, but
Yeah.
go ahead and pop that out to the world. And then we're going to take a little mini break and do a giveaway.
All right.
Can you do a fungal breath test? Does that exist?
I'm not aware of one that, if there is one, that would be accurate, but I could be wrong on that. I'm not familiar with one.
Gary, do you find that when SIBO in all its forms are cleared, that the fructose intolerance also tends to clear?
It's hard to say because no one has really looked at that and done work with enough patients to determine that. But we've always reported on fructose, lactose, and sucrose tests. If you have early gas, we've always reported, because the data is there, again, from Dr. Hamilton, that would say, hey, if PrEP was followed, that could be SIBO. And if you have 3rd-hour gas, that's the intolerance. Now, you're asking if you clear SIBO, is that it? I can't answer that because
Okay.
I don't have a study or like I said about studies, but what any real good SIBO thought leaders would say is clear SIBO first.
Right.
And what I say is, clear SIBO first, and then if you're home on Saturday or Sunday one afternoon, have a little bit of fruit, or if it's
Right.
sucrose intolerance, have a little bit of sugar. How do you feel? Do you run to the restroom? Then
Right.
you can retest for the intolerance.
Great. Okay. While you're still here with me, let's do the giveaway. Who would like to enter to win a Quintron and Aerodiagnostics premium bundle? So, Quintron is the manufacturer of the machines that are used at Aerodiagnostics, and they're partnering during IBS Awareness Month and Quintron's 65th anniversary family run business. One winner in the USA only, no PO boxes, will receive a premium bundle including 3 co-branded Aerodiagnostics Quintron breath test kits, SIBO glucose, lactose, and fructose, plus 2 SIBO cookbooks. I'm taking those are from our friend Rebecca Coombs. Gary, is that right?
I think so.
Okay. USA only, no PO boxes. All right.
Can I tell you why on that? It's
Yeah.
because UPS doesn't deliver and nor does FedEx to PO boxes. That's the only reason.
Yeah, I know you're not being a pain in the booty.
Oh
Yeah.
no, how come?
Yeah, right, right.
No.
No, I understand. I understand.
Oh, and
Okay.
there's a reason why they're 65 years old.
Yeah,
A lot of companies don't make it.
please. That's exactly right. We're talking about generational commitment to the bigger picture and the cause.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, Gary, thank you so much. Thank you to Quintron. Thank you to Eric, who's leading Quintron these days, and to you for Aerodiagnostics being such a highly committed and high integrity lab. What a great
Thank
partnership.
you. And thank you for your commitment to these sufferers worldwide. It's been quite a decade, huh?
Quite a decade. Yep. Yep. And still going strong, still going strong.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
Yep.
Gary, thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank
Mwah,
you.
mwah.
Thank you.
Mwah.